I always like to start on a sad note, but might as well bring up the pandemic. By no means it's had an effect on businesses and restaurants. How are you doing it? How are you doing? How are you making it through this challenge?
First of all, it's not a me problem or a your problem. It's the whole world, unfortunately, and that makes it a lot easier. You have something that goes wrong in your restaurant that you make a mistake on, you beat yourself up and try to fix it. Something like this, you try to educate ourselves, reading a lot to see what other restaurants are doing, not just here in Los Angeles or Manhattan Beach, but around the world. We looked at Singapore, we looked at China, we looked at Spain, other communities that I had friends that were either traveling in or had been to learn from what restaurants were doing there. And a lot of it, believe it or not, is not much different than what is going right here in Manhattan Beach to what they were doing in Singapore. So it's getting educated to keep the guests safe and our employees safe.
Tell us about your wine. Where did that idea come to make your own wine, and where can you find this wine if you want to drink it?
They can be found online at slay.la, and they can be ordered online, picked up at either the restaurants or we ship to you. The vineyard project started just for a passion for wine. I enjoy it. I enjoy the process of it. I enjoy the hard work that goes into it. It's not an easy business. It's a labor of love, and it is something that, being in it since '05, the first time I started sourcing grapes, and then the first time we actually produced was 2011. I just got more immersed and more immersed and more immersed, and then eventually wanted to have our own vineyard and estate and go from there. So we opened up about 3 years ago. We just planted a year and a half. We have great soil. We're in Santa Rita Hills, which was one of the premier grape growing regions for Burgundy style grapes such as Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and ours are some of the best, as I think so.
Excellent. You've had a storied career as a chef. You've been in Vegas, Paris, St. Louis, Beverly Hills, and now you've ended up in Manhattan Beach. How did you end up here?
We had a home in Hollywood, and some friends and neighbors that are still friends to this day moved to Manhattan Beach about 16, 17 years ago. They invited us for dinner. After dinner, we sat in their driveway and said, what are we doing living there? This is Los Angeles. This is Southern California. And we put our home up for sale realistically 4 or 5 months after that. Wow. And we moved here then like 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah. And when did you open your first restaurant in Manhattan Beach?
First restaurant is here, Slay Steak and Fish House. We opened that in May of 2019. And then Slay Italian Kitchen, we opened February of this year, 2020.
You've run a numerous amount of restaurants. Which ones are you still at the helm of now?
We have the, 2 restaurants in Orange County, Park Avenue and Il Garage, which are still currently closed. They are both 100% destination restaurants, and they have a little bit of an elderly crowd. So we made the decision to hold off till the end of summer to open that. And we go into our busy season. Fall and winter months are our busiest season there.
Got it. So you now have 2 restaurants down here in Manhattan Beach. Can you tell us a little bit about the concepts of each?
Slay Steak and Fish House is more of exactly what it says, steak and fish house, prime beef, sustainable fish. We bring a lot of our vegetables and produce from the vineyard. Our farmer works day and night to make sure that we have exactly what I want, whether it's the right size squash, the right size cauliflower, the tomatoes. I mean, we spend a lot of time nurturing what we grow and then what we serve. It's interesting when it's only 2 people involved in it, our farmer and myself. We don't have a lot of middlemen in it. We don't have anyone else that makes a decision on it. He gets what I want. It took a while to get there. That's the same it did. It took a while for our gardeners to get what I wanted at Park Ave and Il Garage as well. Italian restaurant is pizza, fresh pasta, Italian specialty dishes. It's more casual, more open air with all the windows. We have a little more outdoor seating there. The ocean, being so close to the ocean, as close as we are here, but with the breeze and the windows coming through, it's really a unique dining experience.
Terrific. I know you have a dish here, the chicken Parmesan. I was talking to your son the other day, and I was asking him about you, and he said that you won't allow that dish to live at the Italian restaurant. And I wanted to hear your answer on if that's true, number one, and why that is.
Yeah, it is true, and for the reason being that we put it on, it's not uncommon in New York or Chicago where you see some Italian specialties in a steakhouse. And when we opened here, we put the dish on for a friend of ours who was a customer at Park Ave in Il Garage, and he asked, "Are you going to have chicken Parmesan?" I said, "Why would I put chicken Parmesan on the menu, Brian?" And he was coming in for dinner. We put it on the menu that night, and it was a big hit. So we left it. I'm not stupid. If something works, I'm going to stay with it. Then when we opened the Italian, we didn't put it on there, and people ask for it, and we tell them it's here, so they know where to get it.
They know where to go. Excellent. Good. So I'm sure you must have worked alongside some great chefs. Who would you say is your biggest inspiration?
I did my stage in Paris and Versailles when I was early 20s, and that's back when the chefs were really intense. Now it's very politically correct of how they treat you, of how they talk to you. Back then it was just raw and get in, and to see cooks crying on the line because they just got so beat up and berated was the norm. And I worked for a chef, Gerard Vier, in Versailles. And the experience there was so elegant, so pristine, but when he walked through the kitchen with his German Shepherd, it was total silence. You could hear a pin drop, and the service would start, and it just would go flawless without a sound in the kitchen.
Do you think that still happens anywhere in the world to that intensity?
Yeah, I would doubt it. I think people need to bring a little more fun into the kitchen, which has happened. And the consequences of berating someone today aren't going to end well.
Yeah, very good. So Manhattan Beach, as you may know, has many different unique neighborhoods, and picking one can be a challenge for some. Trying to say one's better than the other can be a challenge. So when you think of your restaurants, how do you guide someone when they say, "Hey, I want to go to your best restaurant"?
It's interesting. My first reaction would be, what's the occasion? If it's a special night out, a date night, a business dinner, I would probably recommend Slay Steak and Fish. If you're going with a first date and you're going out for a younger evening of maybe a play or the theater, and you're going to catch something either before or after, I would recommend Slay Italian. It's just a little more hustle bustle. It's a little more excitement with all the windows open. You see so many people walking by. Everyone that is sitting there knows 2 or 3 people walking by at any given time. Yeah. And that's a downside, because then they end up standing up and talking for 15 minutes. And
they won't leave your restaurant.
Right, they won't leave.
Got it. So I know, well, I think I've asked this, but you've run a lot of different restaurants. So the ones you run now are these 2 and the ones in Orange County, those 4?
Those 4 in the Vineyard are what I concentrate 100% on.
Yeah. And can you eat at the Vineyard, or it's just producing?
No, we do private events there.
Okay.
And it's closed to the public. We do private tastings or tours, but the events that we do are pretty special. It's a beautiful setting. When you're inside the winery looking into the hills, it's magical. And we've been fortunate. We've had some really nice events there that people are just thrilled with and we're proud to serve.
So those private events, are those like private dinners, or are they actually more like a wedding, or what? When you say event, what do you mean?
Weddings or corporate dinners.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And do you reside in Manhattan Beach?
Yes, my wife and kids, we all live over on 8th Street. We've been here for 15 years. And another funny Manhattan Beach story, when we opened our first restaurant in Beverly Hills, we had friends come out from St. Louis, and they said, "We just moved to Manhattan Beach." Now, granted, this is like 24 years ago. They said, "We rented this house on the Strand for $5,000 a month." My wife and I thought they were the craziest people we've ever met in our life. We all know what a house on the Strand is now. So, but we love it here. It's a great community. Everyone, if you would have, as you have been around during the pandemic, to see people on the streets, back out, it's a happy neighborhood.
Yeah, excellent. What would you say is your favorite thing about Manhattan Beach?
A little bit about what I just said. The other thing is the business community is a pretty tight-knit community. I walk into the bank, everyone's happy to see you. You walk into another restaurant, everyone seems to just stick together and want to protect everyone. it's really special.
Excellent. And I know the city was adding outdoor dining. Do you have any take on the outdoor dining personally?
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's definitely needed for something like this, and the city reacted really quick on it, which is a big plus. And I think all the kinks are getting worked out. We're looking forward to doing something here soon. Slay Italian, we were permitted to have a few more tables than normal outside, so that definitely helped. But we're anxious to get our outdoor area here in the next week or two.
Exciting, great. And so, you know, as a business person, I think about you've been forced to reduce your amount of customers by 40%, 50% in many cases. What kind of changes are you been forced to make to stay profitable, or can you even stay profitable in a market like this?
That's a tough one. When you asked if I'm cooking much, I'm not cooking much right now. I'm pretty much the business leader, trying to make sure that the decisions we are making, and we make the decisions together, my wife, my kids, of what we're doing makes sense, and to make sure that we can sustain this. It's not great. I mean, having 30 or 40 or 50% seating in a fine dining restaurant, or any restaurant for that matter, especially in a town like Manhattan Beach, it's tough. It's been a real challenge, but I'm pretty good at challenges like that, and I figure that out. So I enjoy that part of it. And looking forward to getting back to cooking. But I think the key to all this is going to be, in the long run, every day we're learning something new, or something new is changing about what is required, what is not required. And you have to be ready, because if it changes to 80% tomorrow, we need to be ready, because that's going to make a big difference in our bottom line.
Right. So when you think of your food, and you're thinking of your favorite dishes you've either created or you still sell, what comes to mind for you?
A couple different things. We have a scallop dish on the menu that's kind of followed me around for a while. It's seared scallops with a veggie succotash, with the grain mustard sauce. And the other thing is that we grow so much of our own, as I mentioned earlier. So when we're bringing tomatoes in right now, as simple as a tomato can be, with good olive oil, little sea salt, cracked pepper, and maybe a little squeeze of lemon or a splash of vinegar. I mean, that's as simple as it can be, but when you have that, it can't be anything better. I just brought a bunch of peaches in that we made a great peach crostata here. And we did a peach and burrata salad down at Italian. They're so sweet and so good, and it's just things like that that excite me.
Awesome. So you mentioned you're not cooking as much. Are you happiest when you are cooking?
I'm happiest when I'm cooking at home.
Yeah.
For friends and family. I like making people happy, and when I see people come over for dinner to my house, which we did entertain quite a bit, I was enjoyable. Cooking in a restaurant environment, it's repetitive, and that's, unfortunately, for chefs in the kitchen, being repetitive isn't always the most fun, but being repetitive is what makes you great. And when you do things so often, so well, that's what makes a great restaurant.
Well, since you're farm to table, I imagine you have to come up with some new dishes or ideas once in a while when you're getting the freshest produce from your farms and your estate. Do you change some of those dishes when that happens?
Oh yeah, they don't like me for that, because I'll change it. I'll change it at 5 o'clock. My kids will freak out. The chefs will. You know, we worked for 2 seasons with our farmer up at the vineyard to get a cauliflower the right size, to where when it comes out on a plate, it's a small-headed cauliflower just sitting there, and you can't see the pool of sauce under it. And when you cut into it, it's so tender from being steamed. The cauliflower opens up, the sauce comes from underneath it, inside. It's the most beautiful and the most tasteful cauliflower that you could imagine. So things like that do excite me. I like bringing food in like that. We just planted about a half acre of purple broccoli that was a total flop. We wasted about a year and a half on that project. When you cook it, it's green, just like the green broccoli. So it didn't have the wow factor that I was hoping for. Tasted great, but
so it grows purple and
grows
cooks
purple
green.
as soon as you steam it, it turns green. So that wasn't one of the better plans that we wasted an acre and a year and a half on. So
yeah, awesome.
But that's okay. It's still that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it funny when you sit there thinking, we're all at the test kitchen at my house thinking, what happened?
Terrific. So I'll just leave an open-ended question for you. Is there anything you'd want to say about either the restaurant business, the world you're dealing with today, or Manhattan Beach in general?
Well, interesting enough, I was reading something last day or two about real estate in Manhattan Beach, and as we all know, Southern California in general is transient. You got to be as good today as you are 3 months from now or as you are a year from now, because there's always someone else moving into the neighborhood, whether it's an athlete that got traded, a new Fortune 500 company that may be opening an office here, or just a retired couple that says, hey, I want to move to Manhattan Beach. I see it all the time. I had a couple last week. He says, I got the strangest story. I've never been here before. We were in San Francisco. My business has been through the roof. I said, what's your business? He said, for 10 years, I've made these masks and ventilators. He said, they sat on a shelf for 10 years. I struggled with this business, and this happened. He says, and I've made more money than I've ever made. We took a trip to California. Everything's closed. We drove down the coast, ended up in Manhattan Beach, and they're hell-bent on moving here. They just have never been to a better place. So it's stories like that. So when a guest comes in for the first time a year later, they deserve the same thing as we all got back in May. And I'm a big believer in that. And I ride my staff on that. I ride management about that. I ride my kids about that. And it can't be truer to what a restaurant really is.
So you have your family working with you. Do you enjoy that part of it?
I do. They probably don't. I mean, I'm as hard on them as I am on anyone else. But they're pretty good about it. I want things right. I want things clean. I want things to be right. And I go to my daughter's apartment. Things are right. Her clothes are in order. Her apartment's clean. So they get it.
Good. You mentioned cooking at home. Take us into your home. Did you buy a kitchen that was done and you were happy with it, or did you create something special being a chef?
Well, being a chef, two things. We had a catering division for a long time, so I can cook anywhere. And our kitchen at home, one thing I never did want in any kitchen at our houses was a commercial kitchen. I'm in that all day long. So we always have a nice stove, and to me, knives are everything. So I always have great knives. I collect knives and have a good assortment of them. But the one thing about it, I think when we have friends over, music's important, candles are important, flowers are important. My wife does the flowers at all the restaurants. So I think ambiance, music, and they know they're going to get a great meal. They know they're going to have wonderful wine. And it's just, coming to my home is a lot different than coming to the restaurant. Because I'm waiting on you, I'm cooking for you, I'm serving you. So people really enjoy it.
Well, excellent. Well, David, I wish you nothing but great success at making it through these challenges it's been thrown at all of us, and appreciate you sitting down with me today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.